Okay. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisance. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to all the Vaishnavi devotees. We thank you all for being here today, as always. Continuing our Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. And today we have His Grace SALIKA Prabhu, who will be speaking to us from the Nectarian Srimad Bhagavatam. And without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen. And Shri Salika Prabhu, you may take it over from me. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narayachaivam Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatujayam Unidirayet Nasta Prayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavatam Uttamasluke Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayana. Unto Narayan, Narayan, Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam, by regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So we're reading from today from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 2, text number 16. Remembering the pastimes, remembering the Lord. So we'll read the Sanskrit text. We'll recite the word for word translation, and purport. Mam ke dayati etat ajasya ajamma Vedambanam yad vasudeva agehe Vraje vasuri bayad iva swayaham Ora vyavatsid yad anantabriyaha Mam ke dayati etadajasya ajamma Vedambanam yad vasudeva agehe Vraje vasuri bayad iva swayaham Purat Vyavatsit Yad Ananta Avrirya Mamke Dayati Itadajasya Ajamam Vedambanam Yad Vasudeva Age Rajesha Vasuri Bayat Iva Aswayam Purat Vyavatsit Yad Ananta Avrirya. Word for word translation. Mam, to me, Kedayati gives me distress. Eta, this. Ajasya, of the unborn. Janma, birth. Vidabanam, bewildering. Yat, that. Vasudeva, Vagehe, in the home of Vasudeva, Vraje, in Vrindavan. Cha, also. Vasaha, inhabitation. Hari, enemy. Bayat, because of fear. Ivaha, as if. Swayam, himself. Purat, from Mathura Puri. Vyavasit, Vyavasit fled, yet one who is Ananta Vriyaha, unlimitedly powerful. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Labai Charanaravinda. Shilaisi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Patitapa Vanjagaguru. Safety of the worship of Prabhupada Ki Jai. When I think of Lord Krishna, how he was born in the prison house of Vasudeva, although he is unborn, how he went away from his father's protection to Vraj and lived there incognito out of fear of the enemy, and how, although unlimitedly powerful, he fled from Mathura in fear. All these bewildering incidents give me distress. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Because Lord Sri Krishna is the original person from whom everything and everyone has emanated, as quoted in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 verse 8, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. And in the Vedanta Sutra 112, where it says Janmadi Asya Yata, nothing can be equal to or greater than him. The Lord is supremely powerful. The Lord is supremely perfect. And whenever he enacts his transcendental pastime as a son, a rival or an object of enmity, he plays the part so perfectly that even pure devotees like Uddhava are bewildered. For example, Uddhava knew perfectly well that Lord Sri Krishna is eternally existent and can neither die nor disappear for good. Yet he lamented for Lord Krishna. All these events are perfect arrangements to give perfection to his supreme glories. It is for enjoyment's sake. When a father plays with his little son and the father lies down on the floor as if defeated by the son, it is just to give the little son pleasure and nothing more. Because the Lord is all-powerful, it is possible for him to adjust opposites such as birth and no birth, power and defeat, fear and fearlessness. A pure devotee knows very well how it is possible for the Lord to adjust opposite things. But he laments for the non-devotees who, not knowing the supreme glories of the Lord, think of him as imaginary simply because there are so many apparently contradictory statements in the scriptures. Factually, there is nothing contradictory. Everything is possible when we understand the Lord as the Lord and not as one of us, with all our imperfections. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyanam Gyanam Shalakaya Shaksho Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganam Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaganam Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Shindu Dinabandhu Jagapati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaustute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shiti Devi Pranamami Nari Priye Vancha Karpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyas Ivascha Patitanam Pavatnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Mukhaṁ Karoti Bhachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripatam Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srinivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So we read the text translation again. Uddhava says that when I think of Lord Krishna, how he was born in the prison house of Vasudeva, although he is unborn, how he went away from his father's protection to Vraj and lived there incognito out of fear of the enemy, and how, although ultimately powerful, he fled from Mathura in fear. All these bewildering incidents gives me distress. Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, thank you very much for being here today. We thank each and everyone who has endeavored to make it possible to be at this August moment of the day, which is the most auspicious hours. Most auspicious because there's no other event or activity that can be more glorious than that moment when we have opportunity to associate directly with the Lord. And such is the nature of hearing and speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. Before trying to share realization for the glory of the Lord, we humbly beg for the blessings of the Vaishnava devotees who are present on this platform, listening to these beautiful narrations of the Lord's pastime, that by their mercy, we shall receive the grace of the Lord to be able to render this service for our purification and for the blessings and purifications of the Vaishnava devotees. So this text we are reading this afternoon, third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, third chapter of Bhagavatam, describing the remembrance of Uddhava of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the epitome of all devotional endeavor or activities, as given by Srila Prahlad Maharaj. In the seventh canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Prahlad Maharaj he said beautifully the most favorable and one of the most popular verses of Srila Prabhupada quotations, where Prahlad Maharaj says that one who is sufficiently intelligent, who has proper intelligence, who has his head on his body, should use his human form of life from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, he should practice the activities of devotion and service, giving up all other engagements. That human body is most rarely achieved. And although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one a complete perfection. This is the statement of Prahlad Maharaj. Thank you very much, Sade, for bringing it up. The qualification of an intelligent person, one who is actually considered a human being, is described in this verse, where Prahlad Maharaj is explaining that the qualification to identify one who is actually intelligent is that he is able to deduce what is the original purpose of these human bodies. According to the Vedic scriptures, there are 8,400,000 species of life, consisting of different levels of consciousness. And that of this 8,400,000 species of life, this form of human body is glorious, is glorified. Why? Because in this human body, what is not easily attainable in other bodies is easily achievable. It is not like that one cannot attain the highest form of human existence from other bodies created by Lord Brahma. But this particular human form of life is said to be unique. Why? Because it is the most favorable to practice the most favorable activities, which is bhakti. In the higher stage of life, in the higher bodies, in the deva bodies, the level of sense of gratification is so high that it is almost difficult to remember the need for rendering service. So although it's a very high level of body that gives opportunity for sense gratification, which is the predominant desire of a conditioned being, but it is disqualified. Why? Because such a body keeps the living entity into this cycle of samsara, birth, death, old age, and disease. And in the lower stage of life, in the lower forms of life in those bodies are so difficult because you see that there is no consciousness to be able to reflect or think about one's existence. The living entity on that platform simply engage in activities based on this dictation by the higher forces, so they cannot reflect. Or in some cases, the body is so painful that there is no possibility of being able to think and reflect on the use of intelligence. So this form of human life is very wonderful. And it's so wonderful because it affords one the opportunity to render loving service to the Supreme Personality, which is said to be the highest form of engagement of the human form of life. We see practically in life, there are so many things that are existing in this material world. And according to materialists, the form of money is considered to be the highest. Why? Because they said money answered everything. In the material world, once you have money, you can buy anything and everything. So therefore, the whole world is struggling to get money. But the reality is that the nature of the living entity is that Ananda Maya Vyasat. His nature is to be pleasurable, is to be happy. But unfortunately, the living entity cannot be happy by acquiring so much of money. That is the irony. So, but those who are less intelligent do not know this. Although the purpose is that they want to become happy. So therefore, they are struggling like anything for that which has been considered, according to material calculation, the biggest of all biggest of achievement, which is to have unlimited funds in the form of money. So by such availability of so much money, and they end up from the beginning of their life to the end, while they are not able to control themselves, the parents, unfortunately, who are materialists, engage the child, doctor the child, brain the child in such a way that all his life is tailored, is calculated around the cause of degradation, which is sense gratification. And when he's able to think himself, he struggles from the age 3. In those days, we used to start education by the age 5, 6, or sometimes even 7. Some of us were not able to go to school until the age of 7. Why? Because in those days, for you to go into school, one of the justification is that you have to touch the other side of your, whichever hand you are talking air, to be able to know that you are matured for school. In those days, so you put your hand over your head like this and touch your ear. And if you have not been able to touch that part of your ear with the hand, then you are considered not to be mature enough to go to school. But in these days, at the age 2, even the parent have abandoned the child, they throw him into kindergarten or home school or whatever. And this is those most unfortunate development of this modern civilization, because it is considered in those days when we were growing that a child is not able to reason properly when he's not able to have been able to raise his hand and touch the other side of his ear in that manner. So because of that, some of my younger brothers started education before me, because even though I look tall now, while I was growing up as a child, I wasn't growing tall initially. All of a sudden, at the middle age, I started, the age when I get to the puberty age, I started growing tall. So because of that, I didn't start school until age 7. After 7, while 7 years old, before I could start education. So, but then, this is the unfortunate nature of our modern civilization, that the whole focus is to become happy, which is not wrong. The living entity's nature is that Ananda Maya Vyasat, Krishna, Brahma defines God. Ishvara Paraman Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The form of the characteristics of God is Satchidananda Vigraha. So Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha, and the living entity, because it's part and parcel, as Krishna himself said in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that the living entity is my fragmental part and parcel. So because we are part and parcel of Krishna, we have this natural inclination to become happy, which is not wrong. But then the real challenge is that in material life, everybody is struggling to become happy by struggling to have money, because money is said to be the source of being able to buy happiness. Because why is this considered so? Because they feel that if you have so many things, gadgets, so many facilities in the material world, you can become happy. So everybody is struggling for this, and in this way they struggle. And unfortunately, some they will struggle with life in such a way that from the beginning of their life to the end of their life, they're not able to achieve that money. And in this way, because their passion is to become a rich man, life after life, they continue struggling to become rich, and they will never be able to achieve that. Just like Dhritarashtra, because of his karma, wanted to have children. That is 100 at a time. But because of his karma, he has to spend 50 lifetimes to acquire the piety to be able to develop that. So in the same way, the living entity, we're struggling to become to become wealthy. And then because wealth is not just something that is acquired just by endeavor alone. The foolishness of the modern man is that he thinks that by struggling, by working very hard, he can become rich. And there is an adage in my local parlance, they say that if it is by hard work that one becomes rich, then the load carrier in the market, in local African cities, you see people who stay in the market, people who buy things and they help them to carry their load. So they load carriers, they call them load carriers. And these people are said to be supposed to be the most richest, because if you look at the kind of things they carry, then they're supposed to be rich. So therefore, endeavor alone does not, even from material understanding, does not make someone rich. And because you are not rich, you cannot materially enjoy. But the reality that is that the living entity is, the living entity is not this material body. So the happiness that can be derived, the highest form of happiness that can be derived from this human form of life, will never give the soul any satisfaction. But for 100 lifetimes, for 1,000 lifetimes, for 2,000 lifetimes, the living entity are struggling to derive this happiness. And they continue in this ocean of samsara, repeated birth and death, old age and disease, repeated the same thing, trying to gratify. But Prahlad Maharaj is saying that those who are intelligent, those who know the proper use of intelligence, they do not struggle to do that. They start from the beginning to be able to come to that. The whole essence of this pastime of the Lord that we're hearing in this chapter is to remind us of the need, of the purpose. Prabhupada take time to emphasize in the purport what Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita. Jamma kama chami divyam evam yoveti tattva deha punarjanma naitima metu sojuna. That one who understand this transcendental nature of my activities and appearance, upon quitting this body, he will not take birth again. Why will he not take birth again? Because that which is the most desirable for the living entity, which is to become happy, to become blissful, can never be attained in this material world. And that is why the material world is called Kuntaloka, place of anxiety. Kunta means anxiety. Vaikunta means place where there is no anxiety. So the living entity, whatever struggle it makes, whatever endeavor it makes in this life, in this body, it can never be happy. Only one person is qualified to become happy in this material world. Krishna Bhakta. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishna Bhakta Nishkamya Ataiva Santa Bhukti Siddhi Mukti Bhukti Siddhi Siddhi Kami Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataiva Santa Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakaleya Santa. That those who are Bhukti, those who are Mukti, those who are Siddhis. Bhukti means the one who is Mukti. Bhukti means who wants wealth. Mukti, one who is desiring liberation. Siddhis, those who are desiring for power. They are already caused. Sakaleya Santa. They will never become happy. It is not their right. They will never, no matter what they do, whether they become successful or they don't become successful. When they don't become successful, it's even more miserable. For those who are Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhis, they will become more miserable if they don't achieve it. And even when they achieve it, it's also miserable. Why is it miserable? Because the moment they achieve it, they started losing it at that moment. Because nothing permanently stays with living entities in this material world. So Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kami, Sakaleya, Santa, they will never become happy. Only Krishna Bhakta, Nishkamya. Why are they Nishkamya? Because whatever endeavor, the living entities who are Bhaktas, whatever they do is free from, it's called no action. It is called no activities. Why? Because those activities has no reaction. It's just like a cashier in the bank is paying money out like anything, but he never loses anything. Although he gives billions of naira or dollars or yen or whatever currency out on a daily basis, he never depreciates in his cash or acquisition of wealth because he's just giving out. So Bhaktas, devotees are like this. So whoever here and the Lord is playing a game for us. They are enacting a pastime to attract us to this level of wrong understanding. And this level of understanding is really achieved only by those who are devotees. But the Lord is so perfect, just like Prabhupada explained in the purport. The Lord and his devotees are so perfect. When they come for this pastime, they enact like anything, these pastimes, and it looks as if whoever here is in anxiety. But it's never in anxiety, it's blissful, it's joyful. But the Lord asks this. Why? Because he's doing this. He wants to attract the mind of the living entities. That is what he said in the Bhagavad Gita. The purpose of the Lord, Paritanayam sadhuna, vinaya saduskitam, damasam stapanataya, sambhavami juge juge. Millennium after millennium to give pleasure to the devotees. The Lord is coming. Of course, when he comes to give pleasure to the devotees, he simultaneously annihilates the miscreants. And for the purpose of order, law and order, he reestablished religious principles. But that is not the primary reason of the Lord coming. The Lord's primary coming is to do what? To give pleasure to his devotees. So therefore, he plays like a child. And he's stealing Mother Yashoda's butter. And Mother Yashoda will keep. So therefore, Mother Yashoda will dress Krishna with ornaments that is shining. So in the dark, Krishna will use that ornament as an advantage. He will go into the dark room created so that although the yogurt and the butter is kept in the dark room so that he will not be able to see it, but by the jewel that is on the chest of Lord Krishna, he will see and with his boyfriends and then the monkeys, they will climb up, they will steal the butter. And in this way, they will give transcendental anxiety to Mother Yashoda. And the Lord is enacting these pastimes, giving pleasure to the devotees. And when the devotees of the Lord, when they see this mischievous, when they see this the activities of the Lord, they become joyful, they become blissful. The Lord appearing and disappearing, the devotees of the Lord, they enact a transcendental blissful anxiety and pleasure. And like Prabhupada explained in the purport, just like a rich man or a big man is lying down, his son is jumping on his chest, and the son is thinking, I have already defeated my father. But the father is not defeated. He's only trying to give pleasure to the son. So devotees of the Lord are like this. And this is the purpose of all of this chapter, giving us this opportunity to come into, to connect into this unlimited happiness. But how can one achieve this? It is not possible for an ordinary person. For one to come to this, one has to associate with the sadhus. The sadhus are are the custodians of opportunity. Although sometimes devotees get sometimes carried away. We want to follow rules, regulations, because in the beginning of devotional service, what is given? We are given 4 regulative principles. They call it for the regulative principles of freedom. And then one reporter asked the Prabhupada, he said, how can you call this a regulative principles when you have to restrict yourself? But for a devotee, it's called a principle of freedom. In the beginning of the devotional service, one is regulated to chanting 16 rounds. He has to follow non-meat eating, no intoxication. But these are all for childish person in bath or devotion service. All these are regulative principles just to regulate as they are described. Pure devotional service has nothing to do with this, and that is why Rupa Goswami described in the back in Nectar of Devotion. Anyabilashita Sunyam Gena Karamadi and I have returned. Anuklena Krishna Silanam Bhakti Uttaman. This is Bhakti, this is pure devotional service. So what we're describing here, what we are hearing here, what we are narrating here is the ocean of Bhakti. And unless one enters into that corridor of Bhakti Ras, you cannot understand all of this. It looks like just another stories. And therefore, it is misunderstood by those who are less intelligent, who are gross materially. They cannot deep down dive into this nectarian ocean. How the devotee falls into ecstasy and he laughs sarcastically when he hears these pastimes of the Lord. It's important. He who is the giver of life, how can he be said to have died? He who is ever existing, ever eternal, how can he disappear? It is not possible. But to give pleasure to his devotee, he enacts all of these pastimes. But we have to dive in deep into this bhakti. And that is what is required for each and every one of us. The purpose of all of this is to dive deep into bhakti. But how do we dive there? We have to develop association. We have to become attracted to association of devotees. Association of devotees, which the Hare Krishna Africa platform has created by this Sangha daily, is the most wonderful thing that will happen to any yatra. That every day devotees have the opportunity. And that is what Srila Prabhupada won. And Srila Govinda Maharaj said, any day that a devotee does not read Bhagavatam is a way wasted. So therefore, even on Friday, on Sunday, Govinda Maharaj, he will dive deep into the ocean of Bhagavatam. So this opportunity given by Hare Krishna Africa platform is the greatest benediction that anyone can give to any environment of bhakti. But unfortunately, people are not attracted. Last time people said, Dudaivam, Idisam, Ihananuraga. Unfortunately, although everything has been given, what could be more wonderful than this opportunity to daily hear, drink the ocean of nectar of Bhagavatam? But unfortunately, living entities cannot take advantage. Because why? They don't want to associate with the devotees because they are misfortuned. The symptom of a misfortuned person is that he's never attracted to the Sangha or Bhaktas. And Narada Muni, he teaches in so many of his pastimes the power of Sadhu Sangha. There was a story of, we all know Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj is one of the greatest devotees of the Lord who uses the whole of his life to serve the Lord in a very blissful way, and became an embodiment of what bhakti is all about. He engages in devotion and service with all of his senses, all of his tongue, everything about him. But interestingly, Ambarish Maharaj has his younger brother, a young brother who is very opposite of Ambarish Maharaj. He is not most often discussed, but his story tells of the uniqueness, of the power, of the value of association of a devotee or sadhus. So this young brother of Ambarish Maharaj is also a king, and he is described as a sinful king. A sinful king because he's not attracted to devotion or service. So his brother, Ambarish Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj will do everything. He will call his brother. He wants to talk to him because he can see that he's unfortunate, and he wants to bless him to become a devotee. So he will always try to talk to him, he will scream on him, he will talk to him. Don't, please, just take to this devotional service. And this younger brother of Ambarish Maharaj, who is very sinful, or who according to Vedic language is called Papa Raja. Papa means sinful. Raja means king. He's a sinful king. That is how he's described in the story. So Papa Raja, who is the younger brother of Ambarish Maharaj, is so sinful that he does not want to see anything about Bhakti or Bhaktas. So he never want to see any devotee. So Ambarish Maharaj is always in anxiety about him and he's thinking, how can I help this younger brother of mine? So one day he thought, okay, let me invite Narada Muni. And Narada Muni is such a powerful personality. And maybe Narada Muni has helped so many people to become a Bhakta. So maybe if he gets the association of Bhakta, a Bhakta like Narada Muni, he will become fortunate and you can take to the process of devotionals and then he can be saved. Because Ambarish Maharaj was so intensely desiring to save his brother. This is the nature of the devotees. The devotees of the Lord are always constantly, intensely wanting to make every other person a devotee. So in this way, they take so many risks, like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada had to, at a very difficult age, that everybody now wants to retire, he wants to rest, according to material understanding. He wants to retire. At that age, Prabhupada took the greatest of his greatest risk, crossing the 7 seas. Yesterday, we were celebrating the appearance of His Grace Srila Prabhupada. So Ambarish Maharaj was like that. He was thinking, how do I save this younger brother of mine who is glorified as Papa Raja or sinful king? So he decided, okay, let me invite Narada Muni. Narada Muni is touchstone. He has the potency. He can make anyone a devotee. So he invited Narada Muni. And when Narada Muni came to the king of Papa Raja, when he met with him, and because he comes from a very kingly family, so he received Narada Muni very nicely. But then immediately Narada Muni started to talk about Bhakti, wanted to start talking about devotional stuff, the glories of Bhakti, so that he could hear. He became very immediately agitated, and he started screaming and shouting on Narada Muni. He said, please go away, go away, go away, go away from my kingdom. He drove him away. He said, if you don't go away, I will call my guards. They will beat you, they will punch you. Go away, go away. And he was shouting on Narada Muni. He was not fortunate to be able to hear the Baptist talks from Narada Muni. So he was driving him away. So Narada Muni looked at, how can I help this unfortunate Papa Raja, who is a dear one to the pure devotees? And that is why it is important, the greatness of a pure devotees in the life of those who are sinful. So Narada Muni felt, okay, since he's not ready to listen to me, I'll give him an opportunity. So Narada Muni, as he was walking out, so that he was not going to be attacked, as he was going out of the entrance of the king's palace, he shouted to him. He said to him, in a distance, he shouted, he said, my dad, he said, when let me tell you very kindly, when you put this your body, you are definitely going to be going to the abode of Yamaraj. I tell you, keep this in the back of your mind. When you get to the abode of Yamaraj, who is going to punish you very, very severely for your sinful activities, ask him, what is the result of having a sadhu sangha? What is the result of sadhu sangha? Then you will realize. But keep this at the back of your mind. Papa Raja was not bothered. He said, go away, you rascal, just get off to my kingdom. He wants to talk to me about Bhakti. And he drove Narada Muni away, but Narada kept on shouting and repeating, just remember to ask Yamaraj, what is the importance of sadhu sangha, the association of devotees? So in this way, Narada Muni left, and then Papa Raja lived like that. And since Narada Muni could not help him in the present life, so therefore, Ambarish Maharaj was also frustrated, didn't know what else to do. But he knew that for Narada Muni to have entered to his kingdom, something unique fortune must happen to him. So Papa Raja, the younger brother of Ambarish Maharaj, he lived like that, and he continued living like that until he reaches his maturity of age that is allotted to him in that body, and he died. And of course, because his Papa Raja is a sinful king, immediately he was transferred to the abode of Lord Yamaraj. And when he gets to the abode of Yamaraj looked at him and says, you Papa Raja, you're such a sinful person. Everybody tried to make you a devotee, but you never listen. You're such a sinful person. Your sins are so grave, and you're going to suffer like anything unlimitedly in so many hellish planets, life after life. That is going to be your punishment. But because you have come here and you belong to a royal family, I'm going to give you opportunity before you have been meted with the result of your sinful life. If you have anything to ask, you can ask me, then I'll let you. I'll give you that opportunity. And when he said like that, by the dint of good fortune, because of to fulfill the words of the Lord in the scriptures, that a moment association with a sadhu is the greatest achievement in human life. So because of that moment association with Narada Muni, he was able to remember at that moment that this Narada Muni said something, that when I die, I will go to definitely punished. Now I'm being sentenced to my punishment. But he said something very uniquely there. He said I should ask, what is the importance, what is the result of a sadhu sangha or association with devotee? So he decided to ask Yamaraj. He said, my dear Yamaraj, I have accepted all my punishment. I will go to all of the hellish planets you want me to go to. But please answer me this one question, since you have given me the opportunity to ask something. What is the result of sadhu sangha, association with a devotee? And when he asked that question to Yamaraj, Yamaraj became he fell into ecstasy, and he could not wonder. He said, how come this sinful man is able to ask this kind of a question? What piety did he do? Then he looked at him closely, and then he said to him, he said, Papa Raja, this question you have asked me is a very powerful question. I'm sorry. I'm busy. My duty is to punish those who are offenders. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the intellectual knowledge to be able to tell you what is the result of sadhu sangha. So for you to be able to get the result or know what is the result of sadhu sangha, I will send you to somebody who is higher than me. I'm going to send you to Lord Brahma. He said to his servant, please take this sinful Papa Raja to Lord Brahma. Let him tell him the importance of association of devotees. And Papa Raja went with the Yamadutas to the abode of Lord Brahma. When he get to the abode of Lord Brahma said, why have you brought this sinful king here? Please take him away. And then the Yamaduta said, no, our king, our boss has sent him here. He has a question. Please answer that question. That is why we brought him here. And Lord Brahma said, okay, what is the question? And he said, well, someone once told me, and I want to know, what is the result of sadhu sangha? And Lord Brahma said, what? How can a sinful man like you ask this kind of a question? Unfortunately, I'm not able to answer this question, because this question is meant for those who are high bhaktas of the Lord. Please, I'm busy with creation, creating all kinds of things. This is what I'm absorbed in. This is my meditation. I cannot answer this question of yours. You have to go to one who is more of a devotee. Lord Shiva is PRABHU Vaishnava. He is a bhakta. You cannot hear this from me. I don't know how to explain it. Please, Yamadutas, take him to Lord Shiva. He will help him. He will give him the answer to his question. And Lord Shiva, abode was approached by the Yamadutas with this Papa Raja. And Papa Raja, when he get to the abode of Lord Shiva said, oh, Yamadutas, why have you brought this sinful person to this place? His destination is that of hell. Take him away to that place. And Papa Raja says, my Lord, I've been sent here by this by Yamaraj, which is his servant Yamadutas, for you to answer a question for me. I know my destination is that of hell, but you have to answer this question, because that is one benediction I had. So what is your question? He said, I want to know, what is the result of sadhu sangha? Just tell me that, and I will be leaving. And then Lord Shiva went into deep trance of ecstasy, of bhakti. And after some moment, he came back and he told Papa Raja, my dear Papa Raja, you have asked a very, very exalted question, even though you are such a sinful person. How you come to know this kind of a question, I can't understand it. Even though I'm celebrated as a Vaishnava, I cannot answer this question. Only Lord Vishnu has the capacity to answer this question. Yamadutas, please take him to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the only one who has that capacity to be able to answer this question of his. I cannot answer it. And the Yamadutas took him from there, of course. They had the capacity to take him to the next destination. And they took him to Lord Vishnu's abode. And when they arrived at Lord Vishnu's abode, Lord Vishnu was lying down on his Anantashesha, and Lakshmi was massaging his feet. And here is Papa Raja in the presence of Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha planning. And Lord Vishnu was smiling, because already you understand what is happening. And then the Yamadutas delivered the message from their boss. Our dear Lord, our boss Yamaraj has sent us here with this very sinful man. We are taking him to hell. But before we take him there, he has requested, he has been given one benediction to answer one question of his. And that question he asked could not be answered by our boss, Yamara. He has sent us to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma has sent us to Lord Shiva. And even Lord Shiva could not answer the same question. So therefore, he has asked us to come to you. Please, we hand over to him now. We are giving him the microphone. Let him ask the question by himself. And Papa Raja opened his mouth and he said, "Dear Lord Vishnu, I want you to know what is the result of Sadhu Sangha." And the Lord burst laughed smilingly, that beautiful, capturing smile of the Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu looked at him and smiled. And they said, "Oh, dear Papa Raja, you have already gotten the benediction or the result of Sadhu Sangha, because one who attains my abode never goes back to this material world. Because of just your meeting with Narada Muni, just once meeting with Narada Muni, you have gotten the result of Sadhu Sangha, and you are here now. Because you have already come into this abode of mine, you can never go back again. You remain in my Vaikuntha planet." This is the beauty. This is the power of Sadhu Sangha. So therefore, the Acharyas have created, Srila Prabhupada has given the most beautiful Sadhu Sangha to the whole world. We're celebrating the Prabhupada appearance yesterday. And what has he given us? He has given us this same thing Narada Muni has given to Papa Raja, that what? We have association of the Lord. And the Hare Krishna Africa has made it even more easier for us to hear Bhagavatam on a daily basis. This daily basis hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be compared to any gift that anyone can give to anyone. So this is the highest benediction anyone can give to anyone. So we have this opportunity to hear this narration of the pastimes of the Lord. And then what is the result? The result is that when we associate, just by coming to these classes regularly, just by hearing, just by staying in this platform, we get the same benediction that Papa Raja got, and we attain the abode of the Lord. And when we attain there is no coming back to this material world. That is the guarantee. This is the essence of all of these activities of devotional service, as we celebrate the whole of this week of hearing, associating with the Lord directly through his kata. Then let us take advantage of it properly by attentively hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, this narration about Krishna, the activities of Lord Krishna and his pure devotees like Uddhava. And by such hearing, what happens is that it is implanted on our head. And when we quit this body, we go back home, back to Godhead, no coming back to this material world. That is the reward of this association. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to listen. I'll stop here and give opportunity for question and answer. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. It's great, SALIKA Prabhu. What a wonderful delivery of Shri Krishna Katha. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question or share your realizations or comments. Prabhuji, it's very interesting, the text we discussed today, that Uddhava, being one of the greatest devotees of the Lord, even though he knows who Krishna is, he knows the position of Krishna, but he is telling the whole world that even though he knows all these things about Krishna, but when he thinks of Krishna and how Krishna plays these roles, he is excited and at the same time bewildered. So what do we say to some devotees who say that Krishna's pastimes are not meant for us to understand? They are meant for us just to know about it. But we are human beings and we want to understand why things happen. Like Srila Prabhupada is sharing a very nice purport when a father is playing with his son and the son appears to be defeating the father. It gives the son so much satisfaction, and the Father also becomes satisfied, seeing the Son being joyful that he is building up his dad, even though that is not the case. So my question in brief is that why do some devotees say or think that one should not try to understand what Krishna does?
Thank you very much, sir. Prabhu. I don't know why the speaker of such statement will say such, because it is completely opposite of what Krishna says. Krishna says, Jama, Kama Chame, Krishna encourages us to try to understand his pastimes. Because that understanding is what takes us back to him. That is what liberates us. That is what frees us. And that is the instructions of all of the acharyas in the part of bhakti. But if someone speaks on the platform of bhakti and he says that we should not try to understand, I don't want to speak for that person's, I wouldn't know why he says that, but what I can understand by such a statement is that, just like I mentioned in the course of the lecture, the moment we want to do something, we are already taking the position of Ishwara, and we are not Ishwara. Krishna is the supreme controller. We want him to do something. So devotee of the Lord does not want to do anything. He's just wanting to, he doesn't have anything. He has no desire for anything. So probably, I will not sure, but whoever says that, maybe probably is talking from that background that a devotee should not try to endeavor to understand Krishna, because in any case, no one can understand him. And the Lord himself said in the Bhagavad Gita that no one can understand me. No one has the capacity to be able to understand Krishna. It is not possible for anyone to be able to understand him. Knowledge of Krishna is so deep that in a material conditioning state, we have no capacity to understand it. And so that is why Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 14th chapter, text number 26 and 27, that in the 26th he said, that one should constantly engage in, by constantly engaging in practice of devotional service, always one will rise above the material condition of life. And in the next verse, it says that Brahmano e pratista amritasya vasya cha savastasya cha damasya sukaya kantikasya chaha, that is the basis of all the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So the Lord is imperishable. He is the source of everything. So it's difficult to understand him. So the Lord, because of our conditioning, says that we cannot, with our material senses, we cannot understand him. But with spiritual senses, with spiritual intelligence, we surely can understand the activity of the Lord. And that's why the Lord is saying we should try to understand him. And that is what it said in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text number 51, where he says that Brahma Bhutta Pasanatma Na Sushati Na Kankshati Samasaveshu Bhukteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param, that when one becomes transcendental after rising above anchoring and lamentation, when one comes to Brahma Bhutta, then one can start engaging in devotional service, because one knows now what is the desire of the Lord, and he simply engages in that. So whoever says that one should not try to understand of the Lord may probably be coming from, I'm not sure of that person's mindset, but then it probably might be coming from that background where the Lord is encouraging us that we should try simply to engage in his devotional service. In his Bhagavad Gita 7:14, also Krishna says that Devi yesa guna mayi mama maya duratya mamiva ye papa diante mamiva ye taranti mayam itam taranti te, that this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material, cannot be overcome. It's not possible for the one who is embodied. He said, but was surrendering to me, one can arise above them. So if someone says that one should not try to understand the Lord, it might be coming from that background. I'm not speaking for that person. I don't know why he says that, but that is one reason why it is said that sometimes that one should not try to understand the Lord, because one doesn't have in any case, we don't have the capacity. The capacity to understand the Lord himself is bestowed by the Lord himself. The Lord himself bestowed that capacity to be able to understand him. But by one's endeavor, no one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, the Acharya sometimes says that don't try to be expert in trying to understand the Supreme Personality of God. Just engage in his devotional service. And when we engage in that process of devotional service, always constantly engaging in devotional service activities, then that bestow of intelligence to be able to understand him is bestowed upon one, and one understands the Supreme Personality of God. And that is why Lord Krishna himself told Arjuna, Bahunam Jamanam Ante, Genamam Genamam Vasudeva Savami Ti Sama Atma Sudri Alaba, that in chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita, that after many, many life of endeavor and struggling to acquire knowledge, when one becomes knowledgeable, real knowledgeable, is simply surrender to Krishna. So the surrendering, the platform of surrender is the highest level of understanding. So understanding means that you just surrender completely. You don't want to do anything. You just give yourself to Krishna. You don't want to use your intelligence for yourself. You just submit everything to Krishna. That is the height of all forms of understanding or knowledge. So from that background, yes, the statement that one should not try to understand the law may be sustainable. But if one says that on the ordinary platform that one should not try to understand the law, then it becomes contradictory to what Krishna says, that Jamakama Chami e Divyam, that one should try to understand it, that one will understand it. So it's just that understanding cannot be derived by our energy. That understanding is bestowed by the Lord himself. I hope that answers the question.
Very, very much so. Yeah. Well, the few times I encountered some devotees who made such statements were all times that I questioned some pastimes of the Lord. And they said, there are different devotees, different times, different places, but they all said the same thing, that Krishna's pastimes are not meant to be understood, which I find that they either did not understand the meaning behind that particular pastime, or they felt that I am too little to understand the reason behind Krishna's pastime, therefore they spoke that way. But I very much understand and accepted the way you explained, because there are so many references where Srila Prabhupada states that no one can fully understand Krishna. It's impossible, because Krishna is absolute and the living entity is not absolute. Therefore, how can a relative being understand the absolute being? But Krishna has given us a necessary understanding of himself, that if we get to know about him in that sense, then we will be liberated. So Krishna states in so many places that no one can understand him except his devotees. So thank you for explaining the way you did. The other time, that was 2 days ago, which was Krishna Janmashtami, we were saying something in reflection to what Lord Jesus Christ said in the Bible. And some devotees asked. So if you wouldn't mind, I would like to share this on the platform. I think it's very interesting, and for preaching purposes. Let me see. So, do you see? This is the gospel according to St. Matthew, which is the New Testament. And so if we go to chapter 21, so this is chapter 21, and it is headlined with different titles. The triumphal entry into Jerusalem, and then the cleansing of the temple, which reminds me of the Gondicha temple that Lord Jesus himself cleansed, and the cursing of the fig tree. So we go all the way to 33, the parable of the wicked husbandman. So Lord Jesus Christ is saying, here another parable. There was a certain householder which planted a vineyard and hedged it round about, and digged a winepress in it, and built a tower, and let it out to husbandmen, and went into a far country. And when the time of the fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the husbandmen, that they might receive the fruits of it. And the husbandman took his servants and beat one, and killed another, and stoned another. Again, he sent other servants, more than the first, and they did unto them likewise. But last of all, he sent unto them his son, saying, they will reverence my son. But when the husbandmen saw the son, they said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and let us seize on his inheritance. And they caught him and cast him out of the vineyard, and slew him. When the Lord, therefore, of the vineyard cometh, what will he do unto those husbandmen? They say unto him, this is the audience, he will, says he will. And it's very interesting, the he here is capital. So he will miserably destroy those wicked men, and will let out his vineyard unto other husbandmen, which shall render him the fruits in their season. So, excuse me to say. So this is a very wonderful parable Lord Jesus Christ gave, that God, from time to time, and Srila Prabhupada also quoted something from the Bible one time when he was preaching. He says, God, who at sundry times sends his people to come into the world. So from time to time, God sends his messengers, his prophets, his messiahs. And what do we do to them? We catch them and we kill them. We beat them up. And then a time comes, he said, okay, this time I'm going to send my own son. Maybe they will have reverence for him. Then they said, oh, this guy is actually going to inherit the father's property, and we want to have the father's property, so let's kill him. And so when they do that, then what do you expect? The father, the owner of the vineyard himself will come. And Krishna states the same thing in Bhagavad Gita 4, 7, and 8, that whenever there is decline in religion and irreligion becomes predominant, Lord Krishna appears. And when there is so much irreligiosity, when there is so much immorality, when people have become so wicked and so much demonic, Krishna appears. So it should not be surprising to those who have level heads, level minds, to understand that God sometimes sends messengers, and sometimes he himself comes.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to share. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's a beautiful, powerful parable.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ was foretelling what was going to happen to him for coming. To try to deliver men on the earth. And it's a repeated thing, like you rightly said. Over time, it's what goes on in the material world, because the material world is filled with this level of consciousness, which is opposite of what is the abode of the Lord of Vaikuntha. So naturally, we see all of this happen, but there is so many. I was in a class of one Bible experience program by some Chinese organization, Christian organization, and they give a beautiful explanation of these parables, which goes deeper to try to explain what some of the things we're trying to share. That the Lord, when he sends his representatives here, they were talking about the specific aspect of what we should expect, because there are some people that say that some particular prophet is the last prophet to come. And then they are arguing that, yeah, maybe in the particular category, that could be the last prophet, but there are so many other prophets that's going to come in between now and the end of time, because the representative of God will continue coming as long as as this world exists. And I kind of understand what they're saying. So I shared with them the 6 different kinds of incarnations of God. And I was explaining that according to Vedic thoughts, a Vedic person will understand that a particular category of God, just like we say that Krishna comes only in one day of Lord Brahma. So Krishna will not come again. So if somebody comes and says, "Look, Krishna has appeared," we know that that person is a false. It's not certain, because Krishna will only come once. But that does not mean that Krishna will not come. Krishna will not come directly, but he will come through some of his agents. There may be a Manvantara Avatara's time, or Shakti Avesh Avatara, or Avesh Avatara. So we understand this, and that is the wealth, the beauty of Vedic tradition. Thank you very much for sharing this, and this is what makes the Vedic traditions very unique. I was sharing also, and I'll stop on this. I was sharing with one Muslim Sufi friend, and we're discussing about the advent of Krishna, and he was explaining about how he was explaining his amazement of the explanation people give to scriptures. That how is it possible for someone to say that God cannot appear? He's a Muslim. He said, how can someone say that God cannot appear? He said it doesn't align with the Islamic teachings. And he was quoting several scriptural texts in the Quran to back up that fact that it is not possible for someone to say God cannot come, because that would be limiting the person God. But anyway, thank you very much for sharing that.
Well, thank you so much, Shri SALIKA Prabhu. The last statement Shri Prabhupada made in the purport, let me see if I can put it up here. Yeah, Shri Prabhupada is saying here, factually, there is nothing contradictory. Everything is possible when we understand the Lord. I mean, understanding the Lord appears here also. When we understand the Lord as the Lord and not as one of us, with all our imperfection. So this reminds me of different philosophies we have in this universe. or in this material cosmos, which Srila Prabhupada is helping us understand that the highest philosophy is the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva, simultaneously one and different at the same time. So if this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, which affirms Lord Chaitanya's philosophy that everything is the same and different at the same time, then how can we at any point say that what somebody is saying about God is false, it's not true? Like sometimes a Christian or a Buddhist may say something in regards to God, and one may say that is not true. How do we say that is not true if we go by what Srila Prabhupada is saying here and Lord Chaitanya is saying? Please help. You are muted, Salika Prabhu.
This actually, thank you very much for sharing this. This actually reminds one of the famous story of the 6 blind men who wants to know what an elephant looks like. So it actually explains how conditioned a person is when he speaks. And that's why Srila Prabhupada always say that in the assembly of gentlemen, a fool will be known by when he's opened his mouth. An intelligent person, one who knows God, cannot say that God cannot do something, because the moment you say cannot, that adjective alone does not relate to God, because it is the moment you word cannot is attached to a sentence and is related to God, it means that person actually knows nothing about God. It means that person actually is lacking of knowledge of who God is. So therefore, a person who is in knowledge, the moment someone speaks like that, immediately he understands him. And that is why sometimes also in the part of bhakti, you see that sometimes devotee will argue and argue and argue and argue. And some devotees demonize other devotees because their opinion does not match their own opinion or realization of Krishna. Then it is absurd. It means that actually they themselves actually are not that advanced, because who can the worst of philosophy anybody can give is to say that God does not exist. That is the worst part of it. Of all forms of God realization, the most opposite of all of theistic philosophy is that to say that God does not exist. But even that God does not exist is also a glorification of God, because if there was no one who would say God does not exist, and recently I was watching one documentary online on YouTube, and there was a reporter. He was interviewing people in a particular location across the globe, and he was asking them questions: do they believe in God? Do they believe in God? And then, interestingly, he interviewed several people who said they don't believe in God. And then at the end, he was giving a summary to that video clip in that documentary, and he was saying that how can someone say that God does not exist? Is finding a way to answer that question, that what is the rationale behind somebody's mind saying that God does not exist, that is still finding answer to that question. He's asking himself, and he wants someone to answer that question for him. How God? So I wrote some little comments on that YouTube link. I have not checked back whether he has responded to me, but that is the actual beauty of Krishna. That is a part of the beauty of Krishna, like you said. Lord Chaitanya Prabhu said, "Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva," because simultaneously are different. So the fact that he says that there is no God, that is the importance that God exists. So the reality is that by being attracted to this part of bhakti, it is something unimaginable. You cannot imagine the depth of wealth that one is endowed with. If it could be calculated by material calculations, no one can estimate the wealth of a devotee. And that is why Prabhupada always said that a devotee cannot be measured in terms of any calculation materially, because the wealth of a devotee is unbelievably, unlimitedly great, that there's no word materially that can describe a devotee. Actually, when you talk about a devotee of the Lord, you can't describe him. And that is why in devotion and service, one who is really advanced, and that is why it is said that different level of there are different levels of perception of God, and it's one of our chariots. I think probably from the Sandabhas, there was a commentary that was written and was explaining different consciousness or perception of God, and it was explaining that in that I can't remember exactly where it was extracted from, but from one of the commentary of one of our chariots, and it was explaining that the highest level of realization of God is when someone understands that nothing exists without Krishna. And that is what Krishna himself says. And that is why Prabhupada started this purport with that statement. Aham sarva siya prabhava, mata sarva prabhatate, iti matyo bhajantima buddha bhava samavita. The highest level of realization is to understand that nothing can exist without Krishna. So therefore, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he will say, when he sees anyone, irrespective of whatever they say, whether they are saying God exists or he doesn't exist, whether God is short or long or tall or bent or whatever the way they describe God, immediately he sees God in them. So that is the level of realization of a Mahabhagavad. So, but sometimes, for the purpose of teaching, a Mahabhagavad, it comes down and it gives different explanation to who is wrong, who is right. But at that top level, top level of bhakti, one sees that everybody is a devotee of the Lord. Everybody is fulfilling the desire of the Lord. No one can exist. Nothing can exist without the Lord. If anything exists without the Lord, then that means that is not God.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for sharing that. In my littlest and humblest attempt to interacting with people, trying to preach, I've come to realize that words are very, very important, and the way we use words are relatively effective or ineffective, depending on how we use words. And I have come to realize that the best way to avoid unnecessary, harsh argument with people is, especially if the person is from a religious background and is speaking from his religious understanding, it's much easier to accept what they are saying, no matter what it is. Accept what they are saying, and then you let them know, okay, what you are saying is true, but there are levels of truth. There are lower truths and higher truths. And so what you're saying is true. Why don't we consider this side of what we are saying? So if you accept what he's saying, then it's easier for him to acknowledge that, okay, you accept what I'm saying. What else do you have? So this has been like something I have discovered, that just by accepting other religious truths as truths, and then making them or letting them understand that there are levels of truths, it helps. It helps avoid unnecessary argument and hate towards each other. So I just wanted to share that. For example, like if somebody says you cannot take 7 away from 9, 7 minus 9, a kindergartner will say it's impossible. It's true. But higher truth also means that it's possible you're going to owe 2. So So both are true, but one is lower truth, one is higher truth. So in this way, we avoid controversies. I just wanted to share that, and thank you so much. Dear devotees, if anyone has something to share, otherwise,
Sandy, before we go
yes,
further,
go
I just
ahead.
wanted to share this. We're talking about this relative perception, and I was just taking my notes here now. There are 4 kinds of positive perception of things, and there are 4 negative perception of things, and they are of different gradations, like you just rightly said. It is said that one who is a mahat, he sees others' fault as capable of being transformed into good qualities. It's a mahat. But higher than that person is one who is a mahatara. A mahatara is someone who overlooks fault and sees only the good. And even beyond a mahatara is mahatama. Mahatama. A mahatama magnifies small good qualities and sees no fault. That is a little bit still higher. And even higher than a mahatama is someone who is ati mahatama. And such a person at that level, he sees only good qualities where there are none. When there is no even good qualities, but still he sees only good qualities. That's the highest level of someone there. And in the opposite of it, also negativities also can be of a gradation. The first person is a sadhu. The sadhu, he sees others' good qualities as capable of being transformed into faults. So even though somebody is exhibiting some good qualities, he considers it to be faulty. That's an asadu. But even grosser than asadu is asadutara. Asadutara overlooks the good in others, but sees the faults, their faults. He overlooks the good. Although they have some good, unlike the other person who sees good quality and transform it into a fault. But this person, he looks at the good, but he sees others' fault. And even grosser than that person is the 3rd category, who is said to be asadu tama. Asadu tama magnifies small fault and sees no good at all. And even more than that person, the last stage of that is ati asadu tama. Ati asadu tama means someone who only faults. He sees only fault in others where there are none. Although there is no fault at all, but this person is seeing fault. So these 4 different gradations of perceptions of positive perception and negative perceptions are there in each and everyone's seeing. And when it relates that to God realization, you can see it when people expresses themselves at that different levels of realization.
Wow, that's beautiful to know about. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And with that, devotees, I think we'll bring this katha, this sangha for today to an end.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Prabhu, please go ahead.
About the question you asked about how some people are saying that Krishna's pastimes are not supposed to be understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even though Salika answered, so my question, I mean, a follow-up question on that is that Krishna also tells us that in Bhagavad Gita that the one who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance is eligible to come to me, right? So if his pastimes are not supposed to be understood, how would he say that if you understand the transcendental nature of his appearance and disappearance and activity? Because if Krishna himself is saying, if you understand it, then you come to him.
It's just, so, I'll give another example. I tried to explain that when I was answering Sadi Prabhu's question, but I'll give another example to trace on this.
Okay.
It's just like in the night, 9 p.m., we say there is no sun. There is no sun. Actually, it's a fact. There is no sun. But that does not mean sun does not exist. It only means that there is no sun in now, but there will be sun in the next few hours. So in the same way, when someone says that one cannot understand God, yes, one cannot understand God when he's in the conditional state of life. But one who comes to the transcendental platform, he can understand. Krishna himself says, so they bring that verse up, in a beautiful verse, Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, text number 19. Very beautiful verse. Krishna is saying, I can't remember the Sanskrit. It's giving a qualification of one who can know him in full. Yes, 15:19, yes. Ya yomam evam asamu do janati purusho tamam sa sarva vid bhajati maham sarva bhavena bharata. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna that whoever knows me as the supreme personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. He therefore engaged himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharata. One who knows me as the supreme personality of Godhead. So if Krishna cannot be, you cannot know what you don't understand. Knowledge comes from understanding. The basis of knowledge is understanding. For you to know something, you must understand it. If you don't have understanding, you cannot know anything. So therefore, it is not that one cannot understand Krishna, but one has to come to that qualification. And that is why it is beautiful. I said it some times ago, that devotees all should try to do Vedic hermeneutics. And I think PRABHU went ahead and did that. When you do, there is a Christian theological hermeneutics and every other traditions also. So when you do hermeneutics, one of the first aspects of that scriptural hermeneutics that you study is what is required for you to be able to understand the scriptures language. So when the scripture says, or someone preaches or says something in the course of trying to explain certain things, if you understand the basis, you'll be able to capture what that person is meaning. So therefore, when someone says that one should not try to understand God, he may not have the capacity himself to be able to explain, you know, just like in asking question and in answering question. Question asking, ask different gradation. There are somebody who wants to ask a question, but he lacks the capacity to be able to express what he wants to ask. So therefore, a listener or a preacher must be attentive enough to be able to look beyond what an individual is trying to say. Because one thing, and that is one beautiful thing Srila Bhakti Maharaj has shown us. He is trained us. When you are asking a question, Srila Bhakti Maharaj will go beyond your question as literally asking, and he will go behind it and give you. And you'll be wondering, why is this person understanding what I'm saying in my mind? So that is the adhikari, that is the adhikar of a preacher or one who teaches. A teacher must be able to understand behind the scene. And then, having learned that from Srila Gurudev, these opportunities that we have to preach at intellectual platform at different high levels. So we exhibit that, and they wonder, does this Salika has magic? We know that Hindus, these Hindu people, they have some mystical power. How is he able to understand? Because when they are discussing, I will just keep silent, I'll be listening. And so one day, somebody will say, so how do you able to understand everybody? Even though you are not inside of them. When they are arguing, you just say, okay, everybody wait. What this person is trying to say is this. Although he has not said that statement, but you are able to express what he is trying to say. Do you have some magic? And I will explain. I said, well, it's not a magic. It's a level of intellectual development. And we learn this from our dear Guru Maharaj. So because a devotee is not listening to the words, is listening to the art of the conditioned soul. So it's therefore able to see their concern. So therefore it gives them the ultimate. When somebody is lamenting for suffering, a materialistic person gives him food, physical food. But a pure devotee, he does not only give him food, he gives him food and gives him spiritual food in addition. So recently I was listening to, in preparation for Srila Prabhupada's appearance, I was listening to one lecture, and Prabhupada was saying that in the beginning, on a daily basis, he gives average of 15 persons cook for them personally by himself. Himself, as an old man, he doesn't have money. So he will prepare food, physical food, nice, sumptuous food. He will cook by himself, 15, average of 15. And on every Sunday, average of 100 persons will come and eat food. And he said, Prabhupada was saying that even though that time, he said he knew that all of these people that are coming, they're not coming for Bhagavatam. They're not coming for Krishna. They're not interested in Krishna. They're coming for just to eat. Prabhupada will understand that. So it's not carried away by the emotion that, oh, there are many people coming now. They are coming to hear Bhagavatam. No, Prabhupada knew. They are not coming for Bhagavatam. They are coming for food. So Prabhupada is giving them the food, but then alongside the food, he injects bhakti into it by giving them the lecture, by giving them association. And ultimately, they all became transformed and became great Mahatmas themselves. So a questionnaire and a preacher must be able to connect art to art for answers to be able to be satisfactory. If not, they won't be satisfactory because the preacher must be able to go beyond the external language or semantics to be able to understand the art of a questionnaire as a preacher. Then he will be able to give satisfactory answer. That is why the acharyas you see in the life of Jesus Christ, in the life of Srila Prabhupada, all of the acharyas and the Lord himself, when Arjuna was asking Krishna, when he was speaking so many philosophy about religion, Lord Krishna was just smiling. And who is that friend who was laugh at his friend's dilemma or frustration? But Krishna was smiling because Krishna could understand what is behind. And that is what we are meant to become as a preacher. A preacher must develop that skill whereby he's able to understand the art of the questionnaire. It's not a mechanical thing. It is not something that one develops by trying to mechanically try to read people's mind. It doesn't come like that. One must carry two potent qualifications. What are those two potent qualifications? The two potent qualifications are that one must be titiksha karuna. One must be very, very compassionate. Unless one develops that level of compassion in his heart, and he will not be able to listen to hear the art of a questionnaire or a sinful person coming before him. And he must be very tolerant, because when the person is talking, and I give another example of that just to round it up. When in Paris, when that young inquirer came to Srila Prabhupada and was asking him, why is everybody sitting on the floor and only you are sitting on the high chair? And Prabhupada was very ecstatic about that question. So Prabhupada was not seeing that challenge. If he was seeing the challenge, just like another person, why is he challenging me? But Prabhupada was not seeing what he was saying. He was seeing what is happening in his heart. And therefore, he was able to give an answer that was satisfactory. And the young person immediately realizes himself. So that is the qualification of a preacher. A preacher must develop these two qualities. And that is what Krishna himself says. If one develops this quality, then he becomes a powerful preacher in the line of the previous acharyas. And he becomes the embodiment of the acharyas and mercy. Hare Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Salika, for such delivery. And Shri Hari Chakra Prabhu, thank you for that reminder. In fact, the very chapter, Salika Prabhu, you referenced to chapter 15, text 15 also. Shri Prabhupada says something very beautiful there. 15:15, which is one of the popular verses. Yes, so Krishna is saying that he's seated in everyone's heart, and from him comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, Krishna is to be known. Indeed, Krishna is the compiler of Vedanta, and Krishna is the knower of the Vedas. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada states here, why does Krishna present the Vedic knowledge for understanding. Because a loving entity individually needs to understand Krishna.
Exactly.
Literature confirms this. Yosho Sarvaya in all Vedic literature, beginning from the four Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and the Upanishads and Puranas, the glories of the Supreme Lord are celebrated. By performance of Vedic rituals, discussion of the Vedic philosophy, and worship of the Lord in devotional service, he, Krishna, is attained. Therefore, this is the key thing I wanted us to reflect on it. Therefore, the purpose of Vedas is to understand Krishna.
Thank you
The
so
Vedas
much.
give us direction by which to understand Krishna and the process of realizing him. The ultimate goal is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna himself gives us the green light to do that. And it's very interesting, SALIKA Prabhu, when you shared about Srila Prabhupada's initial experience in the United States, where he himself was cooking and serving people. And he knew that these people were not coming because of philosophy or love of God, because they just wanted to eat. But he went on feeding them because the prashadam is also a time bomb.
Exactly.
And that is what we have some of our devotees gladly, even though inconveniently, render this service almost daily in their lives, distributing prashadam to people. And if they know these people are not going to come here to honor prashadam because they want to become devotees, but it's a time bomb. And eventually, they are going to benefit from it. We've already spent so much time. Otherwise, there is one video that Her Grace Mother Brajalila shared on one of our platforms here in Gitanagri, which really affirms what we're discussing. There is a very popular pop singer in the States, and he shares his story, how his real name got changed to Chris because of Krishna Prashadam. Maybe I will share that later on, but it's very interesting. We have quite a number of important people in society who have grown to become who they are today because of Shri Krishna Prashadam.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's a wonderful service. And may Guru and Krishna continue to bless the devotees who are engaged in such service.
Salika, thank you very much, Salika, for the answer you gave. And Saturday, this Bhagavad Gita verse that you brought out to also, and the purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be better than this. You know, it spells it out straight. And like Salika, when you were talking and you gave the example how people, you must come to a certain level to understand certain things. That one, I think even in our material world, that is what it is. I cannot just wake up and start understanding things about the anatomy of man if I don't study it, if I don't get someone to teach me. I mean, that is the basis of education, right? You learn, you graduate, you come to the level where you get the realization, and then you can be a practitioner of that knowledge deeply. So I understand. Yeah. So thank you too very much. Because this when we hear like that somebody tells us that we can't understand, then why are we struggling to read? You ask me to read something and you say the thing you are reading you can't understand. So why should I read it if I can't understand it? All right. Thank you. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Harikaka Prabhu. Beautiful, beautiful. And Salika Prabhu, we can't thank you enough. And may Shri Guru and Krishna continue to shower their blessings upon you so we can do more and more of what you're already doing. And devotees, with that, Krishna Katha will not be as palatable as it is now. So we thank you all for your association. Hare Krishna. So we very humbly request you all to kindly unmute and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace Salika Prabhu, for such wonderful Krishna Katha delivery. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama, Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Vachakalpatarubhyascha kripasinधुभ्य एव च पतितनां वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय 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 जय।
Go Piminande.